Welcome back, everybody, to Jake and Jake at Night. Now, it has been over 6 months, I believe. We have one person to blame. Actually, we have both of us to blame. Jake has been away at school. I've been working 2 jobs, and it has been a very stressful time for both of us. However, the year is almost done. We have a couple days left, and what better way to spend the end of the year than making a countdown list of our top favorite movies of the entire year.
And we're going to actually start with a few of movies that we didn't like. So we'll get the bad out of the way and go straight to the good. Yeah, so something that I didn't like, and even though it was action-packed, was the latest Transformers, Age of Extinction. Something that I personally don't like is where they just playing the same movie over and over again. This one was just too long. I love Marky Mark, but bro, he ain't rapping in it, so what is he really supposed to be doing in this movie? But he was pretty BA in it, but it wasn't enough to give enough substance to the movie, and it was just too long. And Optimus is really just carrying the team. You know what? He's not Greg Jennings. It's not always going to work all the time.
Another movie that I didn't really love was The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Granted, there were some parts of it that were really well done. The majority of it was just a complete letdown of what it had so much potential of trying to lead into this new universe for Sony, and what it ended up doing was completely shutting down the franchise of Spider-Man altogether, to where now, thankfully, they are in discussions with Marvel to finally sell the character. Whether that will happen or not, we don't know. We can only hope so.
Skrillex showed up there in dubstep form, with a random fight scene. It's like ping, 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 ping. I think those were just 2 big blockbusters that ended up just being a bit of a letdown. Another movie that I was a little disappointed in was A Million Ways to Die in the West. Seth MacFarlane, I think he's great at making these little short snippets. His
Family Guy's
it's hilarious.
And Ted was great too.
Yeah,
was fantastic.
I love Ted. And he knows how to make this short, witty humor, and also making these references that sometimes I have to go and look up and then rewatch, because it's like, once I get it, it's super funny. But he was just not landing that in A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Sad.
It really was, and making him a main character I don't think was a smart move.
There were a lot of other ones that I purposely did not go to because I knew weren't going to be good. So some of them maybe on other people's top worst list won't be on mine, because I just flat out was not going to see, a movie like Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. Yes, that did come out this year. Who remembers that one? Nobody. But now, we've talked about a handful of bad ones. Thankfully, this year we did not see too many bad ones. But let's get to the ones that we actually liked, okay? We both of us put together our top 10 list of the year. We have not seen everything, obviously. There are many movies that I want to see that I haven't seen, some that Jake has seen that I haven't, and more that I have seen and Jake has not. There are several that I really have wanted to see that haven't got a chance to. There's Foxcatcher, there's A Most Violent Year, there is Whiplash, which I've heard is fantastic. There is Inherent Vice, which I'm really looking forward to. There's American Sniper, which I think looks pretty good. And then there's Unbroken, which came out Christmas Day, and we have not seen it yet. And anyway, without further ado, let's get into the list.
Alright, so my number 10 was Chef. Okay, what I really enjoyed about Chef was that it actually cited something that happened, and actually does quite frequently happen. I heard on NPR, which is always accurate, that this type of stuff, these food critics, that it actually is something that can both affect negatively chefs around the country, and also positively give them, even if it was a bad rating, shed light on them. And so in the movie, this guy basically is kind of rated very poorly and the community around him has rated him very highly. It's a good feel-good movie, but it doesn't baby anything.
And it stars and is directed by Jon Favreau, who of course directed Iron Man and starred in one of the best comedies of all time, in my opinion, Swingers. However, I did not see the movie, so I can't say whether it was good or not. Heard great things about it though.
Number 9, 22 Jump Street. Jesus died for Sid Diaz. See, and I loved it for stupid stuff like that. That's how a lot of our friends are. So I guess I was just always ready to hear that stupid humor, and to see it on film was just kind of like watching our friends make a movie. So I really like that, and I think a lot of audiences will definitely like that, even if your humor is you're looking for that more dry wit.
It was right up there with the first one, and I'm not sure which one I like better. Honestly, they're pretty much hand in hand.
So my number 8 ended up being Planet of the Apes. I really looked at it from the Shakespearean point of view. I know this is going to be a little too much. It's Planet of the Apes, but how I saw it is thematically and how it went through into the storyline, very similar to Shakespearean tragedies, and that's why I really liked it. It didn't, it wasn't speaking poetry to me. I mean, there was actually some a big fear, with these animals. Usually, I'm not into animal movies whatsoever, but the apes.
Babe.
Yeah, Babe. Grew up with babes. Planet of the Pigs wasn't my top 10 list, but I found it very entertaining, and there was actually a fear for the humans at that point, where if you get apes with guns, it just was oh my gosh. But it showed that they're very intellectual, and it was pretty cool. It had an almost superhero vibe thing, where it's believable enough that this could happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was in this fantasy world, so that's what I really liked. Moving on to number 7 was Guardians of the Galaxy. I felt it mixed in funny humor to a superhero movie. It was definitely goofy. It had its serious moments.
It's very rare that a movie can take a talking tree and a talking raccoon and make them actually the best parts of the movie.
Yeah.
Rocket Raccoon was probably the best character on screen in 2014.
Yeah. So, seeing Vin Diesel act but not act was amazing. I mean, he was Groot and just said Groot the whole time.
I am Groot.
So in other movies, he's doing burnouts and char and almost, making out with dudes. So, I was very happy with Vin Diesel in this movie as Groot. My number 6 is Captain America. I didn't love the first Captain America. It wasn't really that, high on the priority list. I personally love Iron Man, so maybe it's just prejudice. I don't know. But second Captain America was awesome. It felt more along the lines of the Avengers. Winter Soldier is there's equals, but very opposite sides, and then how I'm really interested to see how P evolves. And I like the Nemesis and how it's very overarching. It's still pushing itself, advancing to the Avengers, keeping the Marvel Universe going, and giving slight hints. I thought it did a great job.
And now it's time for my top 10. Before I do, I have 3 honorable mentions. One of them would be Captain America, which Jake just finished talking about. I really like the movie. I agree with everything he said, but it's just not quite enough to make my top 10. Another one is Fury, a movie that was just a fantastic tank movie with just brilliant cinematography, and the ending is just fantastic. And then the other one that was so close to having in my list, and I had it in my list until about 5 minutes before we started filming, was The Drop with Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy was just fantastic. The ending is awesome. But I just decided to put another one in my top 10 instead of that one. Anyway, so my number 10 is Enemy. Enemy stars Jake Gyllenhaal and is directed by a guy whose name I cannot pronounce, but he directed Prisoners as well. And it is just very dark and creepy. The ending is just so unexpected that it is something that I have not been able to get out of my head since I stopped watching it. And it is completely mind-bending. It doesn't make much sense until, you watch explanation videos on YouTube and whatnot. But it's just a movie that I have not been able to stop thinking about. And for that reason alone, it makes my top 10. Number 9 is one that Jake already had in his list, and it's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I thought it was just fantastic, and Andy Serkis as Caesar was just completely just stunning, and he really deserves to be nominated for an Oscar. He should have got one for Gollum. He should have got one for Rise of the Planet of the Apes when that came out. Kind of reminded me almost of the game The Last of Us, which I thought was fantastic, just in the way it looked with that post-apocalyptic type world. There was more interesting human characters this time. No James Franco, whatever. But,
no pot. Seth Rogen. There's no starting of Seth Rogen.
The apes just feel so real, and you forget that you're watching computer-generated things because they're done so well. Moving on to my number 8 selection is another movie that I wish was higher, but I just can't get it up there. It's Nightcrawler.
Just like his penis. This movie needs...
Okay, shut up. Nightcrawler was a movie that I just thought was fantastic. It was just a slow burn with one of the most just disgusting characters I've ever seen. A sociopath that Jake Gyllenhaal really deserves an Oscar nomination for. He was just fantastic in it. Probably his best acting I've ever seen by him. It was just awesome. And the last 30 minutes of this movie, oh my goodness, it just had me at the edge of my seat the entire time. Number 7 for me is Snowpiercer, which is just a completely awesome movie starring Chris Evans on a train, and it's on Netflix for those of you who haven't seen it. I would really suggest it. It's just kind of your classic Asian type movie. 2 scenes in this movie that I thought were mind-blowingly fantastic. I'm not going to spoil which ones they were. It was just a very well-made movie that is fun, but also brilliantly pieced together. Number 6, a movie that is definitely going to get some Oscar nominations is Birdman. But yeah, it's shot to make it look like it's one single take throughout, which is it's brilliant. Absolutely fantastically filmed. Definitely going to get the Oscar for cinematography. Definitely deserves it too. The acting is fantastic. Michael Keaton was amazing. Edward Norton was amazing, and Emma Stone was amazing. All of those 3 definitely going to get Oscar nominations. I'd be shocked if they weren't. The movie's definitely going to get an Oscar nomination for Best Picture too. It's a very, very well made movie, and like nothing I've ever seen before.